Well, hello and welcome back to the Clara CFO Group channel. My name is Hannah Smolinski, not Clara actually, as that is a common misconception. My name is Hannah and I own Clara CFO Group. And today I'm going to be talking to you about the banks and their role in the PPP process, because what is happening, and I see a lot of FAQs and questions coming in the comments saying, hey, my bank approved me for a loan, but now that I see the forgiveness rules, I can't include any of this as my forgiveness. Well, there have been a couple things that have happened, and I just kind of wanted to talk to you guys about what's going on with the banks and kind of the state of the banks, really, because what I'm finding is that the bankers don't really know. They're issuing loans left and right, and they're trying to keep up. There are some really well-informed bankers out there, but at the same time, they know that they just need to be issuing these loans and they're pushing them out. And there's actually no requirement for them to double check your numbers. So if you submitted a request for $50,000, they probably didn't check your numbers or your paperwork or anything. They just processed the paperwork, pushed it through, and got the loan approved. All right. Some banks were actually checking 941s and 940s, and they were actually doing the due diligence that they needed to, but some were not. Some just went ahead and pushed through the applications. Now, I'm not going to judge the banks. They had incredible amounts of volume, I'm sure, and I'm sure those individuals were trying to do the very best job that they could. However, this is an actual rule, and I'm going to pull it up here to show you. So there is actually no requirement for them to have checked your numbers that you applied for, and it is really right here. If you look at the FAQ document, it's question number one. Question number one. The question is really, does that require the lender to replicate every borrower's calculation? And this is talking about average monthly payroll costs. And it says, no, providing an accurate calculation of payroll costs is the responsibility of the borrower, and the borrower attests to the accuracy of those calculations on the application form. Guys, this is huge, because some of you had requested loans thinking that you could include independent contractors. And even I saw some bank applications that said to include independent contractors in the calculation. That's not true. Like that's actually just not allowed. I think it's even in the questions here. Yeah, so really the banks have really been alleviated of a lot of their responsibilities and accuracy of the loan amount. All right. Okay. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that, because I was talking to a client, somebody who booked a clarity call with me, and they said, well, how come the bank didn't adjust my amount? Clearly I shouldn't have been approved for this much if I can't include my independent contractors. I had them listed and I said they were independent contractors, so shouldn't they have adjusted the amount? And, it really came down to the banks were doing what they knew to do, which is to issue loans. They were not concerned about your forgiveness. Let that sink in for a second. The banks were not concerned about your forgiveness. And I'm not trying to put the banks in an enemy standpoint. I'm just saying they're in the business of issuing loans. They're not in the business of watching your back to make sure that you get forgiveness. Does that make sense? So they're not in that responsibility role. You are in that responsibility role. So that's why you're watching these videos. That's why you're trying to learn as much as you can so you can get this forgiven as much as possible. But I want you to take that on. It's not the bank's responsibility to make sure your numbers are accurate. It is your responsibility. Okay? So that's why I put out information about payroll providers that are helpful. That's why I'm giving you all of these videos to try to help you make sure you know what costs are included and are not included, because ultimately it's our responsibility as individual business owners to make sure our numbers are correct and to make sure we're applying for the right things, okay? So it's a little bit of maybe a scolding, if you will. This is not the bank's problems, it's your situation. But, you know, a lot of us didn't know when we were originally applying for these loans, we didn't know all the rules. We're just like responding, you know, I mean, everybody was in crisis mode. So it's totally understandable that maybe you got a loan that doesn't make sense for your actual situation right now. So what do you do? Well, my recommendation has been for people to assess their situation right now and determine right now whether or not their loan is way too big. And if it is, I'd like you to contact your bank and say, hey, my application actually gave me too much money. As I'm looking at this and I read the rules and I understand now, I have too much money. Can I return some of it? And I think that the banks are going to want to do that, especially before the return date of, I think it got extended to May 14th. This is a good time to look at that number and say, okay, maybe I need to pay back $20,000, and then that resizes my loan, and then it's going to be easier for me to hit that payroll number that I need to hit, you know? So now is the good time to say, hey, in good faith, I applied, but also in good faith, I didn't know all the rules. Like I tried to know all the rules, but it was just not enough time. And we were trying to get everything in, and I was given bad information. One of the clients I worked with said that the bank told her to include independent contractors, like told her verbally to include independent contractors, and it was written on the application. So if the bank is telling you to put that in your application, of course you're going to do that, you know? So, you know, we're trying to do the best we can right now. And we have to have grace for the fact that like maybe we didn't do it quite right. So now's a good time to assess and say, okay, I have too much money. What do I need to do? Now, I don't think you're going to be able to go back and get more money if you applied for too much for less. But I'm actually seeing the reverse in a lot of cases where people got way too much money and now they're realizing they can't get it forgiven. Especially in those situations that you had independent contractors that you had put on payroll. That's not allowed. And so those amounts will not be forgiven. So, you know, the other situation is you keep the money and you use it because it has been issued to you as a loan. Just know that you're not going to be able to apply for forgiveness for a large portion of that because you don't have the expenses there to support it. Okay. So that's a little bit of just like reality. This is what I'm seeing in real life. And I wanted to give that to you to see, hopefully it helps you make a better decision on what you need to do with your loan. All right. So I hope that's helpful to you. Please let me know if you liked this. You know, do the best that you can right now and take responsibility of your loan and take responsibility of your loan forgiveness as best as you can. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.